I welcome all the participants. Um, uh, this is not the first time that I am communicating with each one of you through a video link, but this is certainly the first time that I'm conducting a seminar through a webinar. Well, it's ideal to see people's reactions, but unfortunately, it's not possible here. So I would request that if you have any questions, please keep sending them, and I'll not be able to respond right away, but I'll be able to respond to you as later or during the day. So I'll be very happy to. Okay, now business continuity planning. It has suddenly become more important because of the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, and each one of us is affected, suffering. So it's unique part in our lives whereby not only Pakistan but everybody in the world is affected, and everybody is thinking about the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are trying to find ways and means to address it. But before we do that, if you recall, we had a war-like situation last year when there was an incident at Pulwama when about 80 Indian soldiers died because of a bomb blast, and there was a war-like situation. So at that time, that was the first time we actually, thought about, a very pragmatic approach to business continuity planning, and we had a detailed chat with the financial institutions as well. But luckily, that subsided, and there was no attack, and there was no war. But I think that that incident taught us some very big lessons. And prior to that, there was an incident of a fire at PTCL office in Lahore, as a result of which a number of banks became dysfunctional, and at least one third of the ATMs became dysfunctional. So that was another such move. And then lately, there was an attack on a local bank by international fraudsters, where they made sure that they were able to steal millions of dollars from Pakistani bank, and we had to close down a number of operations, and we had to be very uh, cautious. We had to tread a very cautious line. So there have been a spate of incidences, starting from the Pulwama incident, the burning of the PTCL offices, and an attack on a Pakistani bank. So you will see that in all such scenarios, we were actually reactive. We were really not proactively, So a question that comes, and then comes COVID-19, the fourth such major incident that is occurring in our lives right now happening, and all of us are threatened with our lives, and we really don't know uh, how long will this pandemic persist. So the question is that, is business continuity planning really addressing the real issues, or is that really happening? If, if that is happening, then why are we really surprised by incidents? Why are we surprised by Pulwama? Why are we surprised by the PTCL incident? Why are we surprised when a cyber attack takes place? So I think that is the first question that I'd like to pose to each one of you sitting in this webinar, as to please take a note as to, are we reactive really, or there could be some way where that we could act proactively and protect at least the financial sector from such incidences, or at least we should have a plan when such incident occur. We should have an automatic SOP that should be activated as soon such an incident takes place. So that is important. But within, so I don't want to use the word failed, but are we reactive? I mean, that's a question that I so if we are reactive, then how do we walk the talk actually? We talk about business continuity planning, but is there business continuity planning? If a major disruption leads to closure, does that mean that that is business continuity? So if our only reaction is that if there is an attack on our systems and our reaction is to close the system, is that business continuity planning? Or is that just an, it's like a response to a bouncer of a bowler, of a fast bowler is somebody bounces and you the ideal response should be to, to duck, or the bowler wouldn't bowl a bouncer, or you just, hook it. And, well, I'm not an advocate of hooking a fast bowler unless you're very well prepared. So, but that is akin to good preparation. So the question is that in the event or in the advent of an event whereby we have been hit by a major incident, I think we have been reactive. And that's not only you, the banks, I think the central bank. And but subsequently we have pulled along very, very, very quickly. We have, mustered our resources. We have made sure that the business continues as. Achha, though, if we are to walk the talk, my first advice would be to be proactive rather than reactive. We have to imagine our stress testing scenarios. We have to, continue to find out ways and means that could be effective of our organization. So that's the first lesson. I think rather than being reactive, we have to be proactive. We have to think through to the incidences that have occurred. Achha, now, excuse me, but हमें नहीं पता था, did we not know कि SARS है? SARS आया था ना? We also know about other AIDS भी पूरी दुनिया उससे affect हुई थी. And then there were other such, incidences where, that could have been blown, but COVID-19 has actually blown out of all imagination. And the second question that I would pose to the audience is that is COVID-19 here to stay? That's the major question that I like to ask. Is COVID-19 here to stay? If it is here to stay, or even if that stays for 1 year or a couple of years, how are we going to react? Are we continue to come to the bank branches, or we will react by transforming the way we do business? For example, in these days of Ramadan, will a restaurant survive that does not provide home delivery? Ideally, no, that restaurant shouldn't be able to. So banks have to start to rethink or turn the strategy over its head. And if the customer cannot come to you, then perhaps you have to get to the customer. So if you cannot go to the customer personally, which you can't in a COVID-19 scenario, that means what other options do you have? You can call, or you can send an email, use a video, or use the digital channels. How do you do it? So you don't want your customer to get affected. You don't want you to get affected. But at the same time, you want आपको पैसे तो चाहिए ना at the end of the day. Me and you all want our salaries paid into our bank accounts. Ideally, if we don't get paid, naturally, we will not be able to pay our, the people, our family members, or the people who are dependent on us. And here goes a chain reaction. So it's important in my view. So the second message, the first is be proactive. The second is to, make sure that business continues. And that business cannot continue in the conventional way. It has to continue in the modern way, and that is digital. So that is my second message. And remember, guys, I think I thought very hard. Who is not working? मैं जब अपनी सुबह गाड़ी स्टार्ट करता हूँ, उसको तो COVID-19 कुछ नहीं कहता. It just starts. COVID doesn't matter. मैं मोटरसाइकिल स्टार्ट करूंगा, उससे कुछ नहीं होगा. जहाज भी चलेगा, और उससे अंदर जो हमारे जो IT स्ट्रक्चर्स हैं, हमारे जो कोर बैंकिंग सिस्टम्स हैं, ATMs हैं, वो तो सब चल रही है. It is we the human beings that are getting affected. So So I guess, so the moral of the story to me is that it is the machines that are working and it is the human beings that are constrained by the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have to restrain ourselves at homes or very limited presence in offices, and we have to make sure that the business continues as per the requirement of the customer. So now the other part is that we also want, I hope, that our customers' shops, our customers, factories, their retail stores, their service business, उसको भी तो चलना है ना. अगर अगर बैंक ने चलना है तो इसका मतलब ये है कि उसके कस्टमर ने भी चलना. If you look at the State Bank of Pakistan schemes on wages and all, वो क्यों लाए हम ये? Why are we so interested in the wages of a worker, of a textile unit, or of a services unit, or whatever? We are interested because we want the wheel of life to continue, and that wheel of life would only continue if the financial sector supports it. और जो सबसे अहम चीज है that is लेन देन. irrespective का कोरोना है या नहीं है, हमें सबको दवाई खरीदनी है तो पैसे देने हैं डॉक्टर, हमें आरटीजीएस करना है, हमें एटीएम यूज करना है, हमें आईबीएफटी यूज करना है. So we have to, हमें पाकिस्तान से बाहर रेमिटेंसेस लानी है so that the people survive. So I think this is an opportunity for all of us to rethink the way we do business. And I've been talking to you over in my previous discussions on various seminars. I think checkbook का जमाना तो अब चला गया. So let's forget about checkbooks. Pay orders का जमाना भी चला गया. So let's forget about pay orders. Or manual, empties and also. And let's start to think about RDGS, IBFT. And let's start to think about gateways, and let's start to provide services. Online classes, I never took online classes in my university, but my son does. So I think that's a new development that is taking place, and we have to ensure. But how will we ensure? क्या हम नोकिया की तरह behave करेंगे? मतलब नोकिया है, Yahoo है, और ऐसी the numerous companies who did not see the change. Those who did not see the change, they did not survive. But those who did see the change, they survived. So if you look at the way the financial sector is reacting, I think I like it. They are changing the way they are doing business, and they are changing the way their employees are conducting business. So I think this is a very good opportunity to. Actually, now a very important question that I like to ask is that. Did we foresee COVID-19? I don't think so. No, we didn't. We had Ebola, SARS, AIDS. We have all that. We even have that brain eating amoeba. हर महीने 3-4 लोग मर जाते हैं. But we don't see that at this scale. So now, if we are not seeing that, but does that mean that we should not be seeing it in the future? So that is the real challenge. So I would suggest that your banks, think tanks, your board of directors, all of you should sit down, think as to how are we going to change to ensure that not only us but our customer remains operational. And one idea that is floating around is going digital, is being proactively digital and very quickly getting to the customer. Now the challenge is that bulk of your customers may not be that literate, sorry. But if they are, but remember they are numerically literate. So maybe you need to find out a way that is numeric in nature. Okay, we also have to see as to if we cannot come to office, then how do we coordinate? How do we coordinate the way we are going to, a CEO is in office, but his subordinate is not. Then what do you do? The video conferencing is one. So we'll learn to become an expert on video conferencing. We have to be absolutely sure that video conferences is, is in place in all the institutions, and all the employees are part to it, and all the employees participate in their daily activities. So maybe we need to transform a branch manager into which he is or she is a CEO of a particular branch. So maybe we have to make sure that this offline working is managed perfectly. So we need to focus on that. And I've developed a kind of a thought process, and that thought process I'd like to share with you. The first step is risk assessment, and that being a policy man most of my banking career, it's so important to understand what are the risks involved. To me, the risk for you is to go out, you may go out of business if you do not shape up your business strategies or the way you do business, because there would be, in the days to come, there would be people who would be asking for cash. There would be people who would be asking for pay orders, but that number is going to come down. And if you don't assess the risk of your business propositions or the way you conduct business vis-a-vis the COVID-19, you would have a very hard task surviving, the requirements of COVID-19 or any such incident in the future. How are you going to make sure that you perform perfectly without coming to office? How do you make sure that your engines are running, your core banking systems, your ATMs, your RTGS, and how do you ensure you make that running? So probably there'll be somebody who will be sitting at home controlling it rather. Okay, I understand there was some problem in understanding what I was saying. So I'll repeat the past couple of minutes what I said. One is that we have to be proactive. We have to make sure that the person who is operating from home has the necessary tools and well protected necessary. Because my fear is that if a person is working from home, then he may be subject to a cyber security threat. The kind of work environment that he operates within an organization is different from the way he operates at home. He may have access to unsecured internet. His laptop may have features that are not allowed in a financial institution. He may be having access to websites that are allowed personally, but are not allowed officially. For example, at the State Bank of Pakistan, a number of us are not allowed to use USBs. We are also not allowed to access emails that we come from an unknown source. We are not allowed to, for example, I'm not allowed to use YouTube channels, or even some of us are not allowed to search. So that is the kind of channel. So, gentlemen, at each and every operational level, I would request to conduct a risk assessment, be that at the teller level, be it at the operational level, be it at your compliance level, your audit level. Please carry out a risk assessment of your organization as to where do you stand vis-a-vis COVID-19, and what options do you have to operate in a secure environment so that an office-like environment is replicated in the home as well. So that's the real challenge. Two, I would request you to carry out a business impact analysis. What impact is COVID-19 having on your organizations? Are you still able to continue some part of your businesses and you are unable to do others? And are you making sure that your clients are being proactively catered to? I would suggest for your corporate, for your SMEs and your agriculture as to carry out a risk assessment of your clients as well, including consumers, as to what risks are they facing. Is their income coming down? Are they also not able to come to office? Will they be fired by their organizations? These are the kind of questions that should be. Third advice is that your business continuity planning, I think it needs a revisit. It needs a very serious revisit because business continuity planning was not planned, in my view, for COVID-19. It was planned for a किसी हादसे का, for example, an accident, electricity failures, board member not present, key decision makers removed. But remember, if you recall, there was a Brazilian club, uski puri football team died of a plane crash. Imagine that kind of a scenario. So do you really have a two? I'm not saying God forbid something of that sort is going to happen. But all I'm saying is that God forbid, your critical resources must have their alternatives and their alternatives and alternatives. So 3 or 4 sectoral planning, stage planning is definitely required. Then going forward, what is your strategy actually? Do you cry कि जी over spilt milk कि जी दूध गिर गया, कुछ नहीं हो सकता? Yeah, you find an opportunity in this COVID-19. How do you, for example, a petrol pump, they are at 1/10 the capacity. And imagine a petrol pump that remains at 1/10 the capacity because कोई गाड़ी सड़क पे नहीं है, तब वो क्या करे? So naturally, उस petrol pump will have to rethink कि यार अब गाड़ी नहीं आ रही, कोई पेट्रोल नहीं डलवा रहा, तो मुझे करना क्या है? So I think you have to develop a strategic plan that there is COVID-19. Our customers are not coming to the branches as they should have. We are using a digital channel, so we are going to digitally explore whatever is happening. And 3, we have to be sure that we are very proactively acting on the actions that are required by the board of directors. And I would suggest that please hold your board meetings with the context of risk assessment, with the context of business impact analysis, with the context of a revised business continuity plan, because I believe COVID-19 will not go away very easily. It will be some time, at least, maybe I may be wrong. I want to be wrong. I don't want to be, but maybe I just, because me, I would like to see it go now, but let's see. But the way I foresee it, there will be some time before it is actually. And then you come up with a strategic plan, and after that strategic plan, you target that plan and guide your staff how to walk better. So if your risk assessment is right and your business impact analysis is also right, then you'll be able to develop a strategic plan that does some damage control, that shows some progression, and that also shows some vision down the line. And then at the end, I would request that keep visiting your business continuity planning every 30 days so as to know what mistakes are being made and how can they be rectified and what is the way forward. So we are learning from this, all of us are. Thank you so much, and I'm most grateful to be a part of this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Irfan sir. I would like to invite Syed Faraz Anwar sir to continue the session. Syed Faraz sir. Assalamu alaikum. Faraz sir.
So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So what I'm going to do is I will try and set up a presentation for your eyes. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about this presentation in a while, but just to make sure that we've got certain things to talk about. So all of you are able to see me and hear me properly? Okay, so this is a presentation which is small, very small deck that I have made in terms of communicating my thoughts on business continuity management. So I'm calling that as a business continuity management because planning is one matter and consistent implementation and management is another matter. And some of the other, all of it is now getting interlinked or intertwined with digital first principle. So we are going to be talking about how is COVID-19 setting up a new norm for business continuity management, and how are people now sort of persuaded or pushed to be implementing the digital first principle to be doing business continuity management. So as Fansal has very elaboratively explained what are the expectations from the banks and the other institutions, I'm going to be talking more around how is the nature of this threat different from the other threats that the banking industry or the other industries have experienced over the last decade or more than decade or so, and how do we make sure that we are able to identify the impacts of such 1 in 100 year incidents. So, I mean, this is more or less like 1 in 100 because the last time when we experienced something as catastrophic as this was in 1920, 1980, 1920. So this is clearly a once in 100 years incident. So before obviously I talk about some of the important aspects of COVID-19 impacts on the journey of the institutions, I would probably like to describe that this is more or less like a warlike situation. The scale is more or less like a prolonged warlike situation wherein the uncertainty is for a very elongated period, and with people, businesses, and economies are impacted at large. So now, obviously, since the businesses have got a lot at stake, and for some of the businesses, for example, most importantly, the SMEs, it is more or less like the existential threat. And more importantly, for organizations which may not necessarily have been operating as digitally as they should have been. So this is more or less like an existential threat. So in my view, this is going to be the true test of the BCM implementers. So the ones who are going to be implementing BCMs in letter and spirit and are going to be operating with first digital principle. Yeah, digital first principle. So obviously those are going to be successful in this journey. And the other aspect that I'd like to mention here is the wide variety of risks that we are now foreseeing. So this risk is more or less in line with the risk that we faced during global financial crisis. So, an operational risk is leading to the liquidity risk, the credit risks. Those are now, leading to larger sets of operational risks, more complex operational risks. Those may also lead to some conduct risks. So there is a wide variety of risks that we now have to manage. So obviously in this situation, we can't really expect BCM to be a process-driven exercise wherein we normally saw the BCM to be taking a back seat, a sideline activity, one-time activity, taking the box approach. So it has to be a more critical activity now. So it has to integrate into your DNA. It has to be pervasive. It has to cater to all the areas from strategy to governance to execution. So, it's more or less like a new norm for BCM, and the BCM is going to stay here for a while. So until this crisis continues, the BCM is going to remain here for a while. So now what is at risk? So obviously, we are talking about employees, we're talking about customers, operations, earnings, cash flows, and last but not the least, the franchise. So obviously, we've got problems in relation to employee well-being, their mobility, their productivity. So the institutions are encouraged to obviously explore ways of effective communication and work from home methodologies, and most importantly, to focus on the digital engagement of the employees. This is the engagement that we are now doing amongst each other. So the kind of engagement, this engagement has to be very disciplined. It has to be done under appropriate mechanism. And that's the only way we could be able to preserve productivity. We should know that the productivity is going to be very low. So we should preserve the productivity as much as we could. So it's about introducing work from home environments and also making sure that we are having some digital engagement of employees. So the second aspect is going to be operations at risk. So obviously, once we become digital, once we incline to do digital business, so there are issues around cybersecurity and other related risks. So those have to be continuously evaluated, and all the organizational efforts have to be put in, make sure that the institutional resilience is established. The third aspect is about customers, and this is going to be a very interesting one, because obviously we may expect some customer churn if we are not addressing their digital service needs. So we feel that this is the time for focusing on the digital experiences of customers, and also making sure that we remain aware of their needs, and that we support performance, and we also support their performance of the BCMs, the individual business business continuity management processes. The fourth and the foremost is going to be earnings. So it's not just about supply, it's also about demand. So demand may also weaken. So one will have to probably proactively assess demand impacts, work out their remediation strategies, and most importantly, optimize digital distribution techniques. So it's also about cash flow. So we'll have to focus on liquidity management based on scenario planning and contingency funding techniques. And last but not the least, about franchise being at risk. So for some of the institutions, it's about existential threat, but for most, it's actually going to be about a major impact on the reputational risk. So we'll probably have to integrate all the risks under our BCM exercise. We'll have to think holistically. We cannot leave any area unattended. So therefore, we'll probably have to integrate the business continuity management with enterprise risk management. So this is one of the suggestions that I would like to share with you. So my next point is about the way in which COVID-19 differs from the other short to medium term BCM impacts. So obviously, if you talk about some of the incidents such as act of terrorism or robbery or theft, so we actually see the impact more restricted from a branch or a region to an entity at the most. Moving on to the medium term impacts of some natural calamities or market crash or cyber incident that Irfan have also talked about, it can extend from the entity to the industry. But for situations like this, which are war-like disruptions, we may probably have to look at it from a local or regional economic impact to a global economic impact perspective. So the impact assessments are going to be an extremely important activity to be undertaken by the banks. So the question that we probably have to ask ourselves is my existing BCM fit for purpose for situations like COVID-19? Did I ever foresee this with the impact that we are now experiencing? Second is, did we redo our risk assessments, our business impact assessments, our crisis management and communication plans? Did we have a reassessment of those, and did we redo those? And also, did we have a proper scenario-based assessment of the duration and impact of the pandemic? Now, obviously, we are all very clear that we are not too sure about how long it's going to continue and how severe is going to be the impact. So obviously, one way is to probably going to take the most conservative view. So the other aspect is probably going to be to see if our BCM did cater to situations such as COVID-19. Was the strategy effectively implemented? Was the BCM effectively implemented? And was it aligned with strategy? And did it produce the required outcomes? So it's about alignment with the strategy. So everything is now getting well entrenched with the strategy. It has got interlinked with the strategy and with incident management, reputational risk management, and strategic and enterprise risk management. So all of it has to be done in a holistic, in a comprehensively intertwined manner. So there are certain interesting, researches or studies done on the impacts of COVID-19. So I'm not going to go and talk about those, but talking from the perspective of what scenario you can anticipate. So I would expect, I would probably propose that the institutions should try and do their risk assessment based on an L scenario. So the L scenario is going to assume that this lockdown, which can be a full lockdown or a material lockdown, is going to continue for more than 6 months. So its impact can be drastic on economy, and we may not necessarily be able to return to the normal level of output in the foreseeable future, and there can be deeper restrictions on investments and consumption. So with all this scenario, if we are able to sort of articulate our strategy based on this scenario, then we may not necessarily be hit by any catastrophic events in the later part. So this is about the digital as the new norm. And I think Irfan has already talked a lot about it. But one thing that I must mention is that we are clearly seeing that this is a pushed change in customer lifestyle. So obviously everyone else is like inclining towards digital experience. So we are now seeing online grocery, online food delivery, online entertainment, online learning, online prayers. Everything is more or less like online. Thus, sort of listening to the to the statement made by the chief minister of the Sindh province, in which he was mentioning that if you want to have samosa or pakoda, you'll probably have to order that online. So that is the level of online engagement, digital engagement that we're talking about. That for commodities such as these, we will also have to get ourselves digitally served. So therefore, it's while we see a lot of activity in the digital payment space by banks, some of it is because of the push that we now see from the regulators, which obviously are wanting to have the convenience and safety concerns of customers addressed. But we think that there's going to be a lot more than digital payments that the banks could offer for the customers. So there should be a fundamental rethinking of the traditional banking models, and there has to be the pace of digital transformation has to accelerate. So we now should think about how more we could offer to customers in terms of products and services on our mobile banking or digital banking menu. We should also explore how we can create collaborative business partnerships with fintechs and other organizations. It's about digital onboarding and digital engagement of the customers. So we must see how we could use digital and social media in terms of talking to our customers, in terms of letting our customers know about ourselves, and also in terms of serving them consistently. It's also about increasing the digital touch points, the various experience tools that we have. It's about employee upskilling, and it's about increasing the employee literacy. But that's the only way we could be able to create digital, trusted digital services for products and services which are beyond payments. So essentially, I treat this that this is a brand defining or brand differentiating response time, and therefore we should try and convert this opportunity, this challenge into an opportunity. Few of the areas where we feel that the businesses should try and work harder in terms of their COVID-19 response strategies is the organizational structure. So it's about crisis response structure and its proper resourcing. And then making sure that all of the areas within the BCM are appropriately addressed. So it's about workforce, communication, customers and services. Another very important aspect is going to be the focus on data. So using the data to be able to model various scenarios and the impacts various scenarios could have on your businesses. And then the operations, product services, and the role of various risk and compliance functions. So another important aspect is going to be making sure that we are creating some strategic considerations. So some of the considerations that I would like to sort of propose institutions is to use the right data. So is to be able to use the right public health information, the business impact data, and workforce disruption indicators. So there are a vast variety of data sources available for COVID-19 impacts in Pakistan, outside of Pakistan, but we need to be careful in terms of the use of that data. The other important aspect is going to be ensuring that we are creating our brand response strategies appropriately. So it's about identifying what are the worst case scenarios and making sure that we are well prepared for those worst case scenarios. And then another important aspect is the incident management team to coordinate the response. Now, the role of the incident management team is going to be very wide. It's going to be for an elongated period, so they'll probably have to keep their patience. So this is probably one of the only times where we may need to continue with the incident management team for some time in the foreseeable future also. So, and last but not the least is the scenario planning. So the scenario planning should be not only based on financial scenario planning, but also on the operational risk scenario planning. So some of the areas that I would propose the leadership to be focusing upon is to be able to create a continuous sense of engagement amongst employees, and to make sure that the employees pass on the messages to the customers, and the entire message is cascaded down to the very bottom of the institution. So it's about continuous engagement of customers, employees, leaders, so that. Another important aspect is to be able to demonstrate care to the society at large and to the customers. So it's about understanding the needs of the customers and to be with them in this testing time, and to be able to provide them as much flexibility as possible to support their business continuity also. And obviously it's about conducting of a number of ESG and CSR activities. So this is my last slide, and as you can see, there are a number of banks that we had a look on as to what they did in terms of their response in the COVID-19 situation to better serve customers. And as you can see, there is a lot that they have done in terms of making sure that their payments experiences are streamlined, in terms of making sure that their lending experiences are streamlined and are fit for purpose. And also there are a number of incentives, financial incentives and operational incentives that they sort of planned for customers at large. But one of the few important ones that I'd like to mention over here is a COVID vulnerability rating that was introduced by one of the banks, in which they were more or less stress testing each and every account in the loan book in terms of their withstanding capacity for a 6-week, 3-month, or a 6 months lockdown. So these types of proactive credit risk management capabilities or operational risk management capabilities, we should anticipate our stakeholders to also consider. So one of the other initiatives taken by a UK bank was to offer a digital card. So obviously there was no need to sort of get the card physically. So it was a digital card proposition that they introduced. And another important one was for self-isolated people, in which someone else could transact on their behalf under appropriate limits. So these are a few of the areas in which the institutions did try and come up to the expectations of the customers for digital engagement and digital service. So this is what I had for sharing with yourselves today. So thank you very much for your time. Thanks a lot, Ibrahim, Irfan Saab, everyone.
Thank you, Prasad. We may be taking some questions. Any questions? Anybody wants to ask from Prasad? Irfan Saab questions, we will answer. We will reply you via email. Mazhar Saab, Man Saab, Man Mazhar Saab. एक मिनट यार. Usman sir. उस्मान साहब आपको अनम्यूट करना पड़ेगा अपने आप को पहले।
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम इब्राहिम साहब।
जी वालेकुम सलाम। कैसे हैं आप?
जी आवाज आ रही है आपको इब्राहिम साहब?
जी जी बिल्कुल आ रही है। आपको कोई सवाल करना है तो बताएं।
जी आपकी आवाज जरा हल्की आ रही है। हेलो।
जी 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 हेलो हेलो।
जी
आप
अब बेहतर है।
ने जो सवाल करना है सैयद फराज फराज साहब से अगर कोई सवाल करना है तो बताएं।
मैंने दोनों प्रेजेंटेशन सुनी। बिल्कुल एक कंप्लीट पैराडाइम शिफ्ट है। द वे वी कंडक्ट बिजनेस, द वे वी even the way we conduct our domestic life. So everything seems to be changing. और जैसे इरफान साहब ने कहा, I perfectly agree कि बहुत प्रोएक्टिवली इसको हेड ऑन इनकाउंटर करने वाली बात है। और जिस तरह से इसका इम्पैक्ट एनालिसिस, yes, first and foremost, that how and where and its which dimensions and areas would it impact, and how much qualitatively and quantitatively that impact would be. Uh, that needs to get prioritized. And also digitalization of the entities, ये तो to some extent हुई भी या हो भी जाएगी. But at the same time, from banking perspective, digitalization and the tech savviness of its customers, ये भी एक बहुत important aspect है. Hello, hello.
जी 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 आवाज आ रही है आपकी, बताएं।
जी जी। तो बस मैं तो दोनों प्रेजेंटर्स का शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ. इट वाज वेरी एनलाइटनिंग और काफी आई ओपनिंग किस्म का सेशन था. एंड वी विल स्प्रेड द सेम whatever we have been taught in our organization. Or and one thing is for sure that the dynamics of conducting business is totally changing.
थैंक यू उस्मान साहब। ताहिरा रजा साहिबा को सवाल है। ताहिरा मैडम ताहिरा रजा साहब
जी
साहिबा।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
जी वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
ये आपने
जी
मुझे शायद म्यूट किया हुआ है।
नहीं 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 नहीं, अब बताएं।
अच्छा, थैंक यू वेरी मच फराज एंड इरफान साहब। आई एम सो ग्रेटफुल कि ये इस तरह के सेशंस आजकल के दौर में बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट हैं। घरों में बैठ के वी कैन रियली हैव एन एक्सेस टू दिस काइंड ऑफ अ नॉलेज बेस। मेरे पास थोड़ी सी आवाज़ की प्रॉब्लम आ रही थी, तो मैं पूरी प्रेजेंटेशंस नहीं सुन सकी, बट आई एम ग्लैड दैट इट्स गोइंग टू बी अवेलेबल ऑन द यूट्यूब। लेकिन फराज की मैंने सारी प्रेजेंटेशन देखी है, दैट रियली हेल्प मी अंडरस्टैंड। अब जो चूँकि एको आ रही है इसलिए मुझे थोड़ा बात करने में मुश्किल हो रही है। तो मेरा ये असल में सवाल एक ये है कि हमारे पास जो इस वक्त हमें बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट डेटा की ज़रूरत है कि हमारे जो कस्टमर हैं उनका लोकेशन वाइज, एज ग्रुप वाइज, लिटरेसी लेवल वाइज, हाउ मेनी ऑफ देम आर टेक्निकली टेक्नो सेवी हैं, इसकी बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है इन ऑर्डर फॉर अस टू फ्रेम द स्ट्रैटेजीज टू outreach these people, because only one strategy will not help. We will have to have multiple strategies and multiple approaches. So what kind of data sources are currently available which would help the banks map these kind of population distribution or their own customer distribution? Thank you.
फराज साहब।
Thank you very much, Tyra. So the answer to your question could be कि हमें थोड़ा सा देखना ये पड़ेगा कि right now are we talking about the data for threats or the data for customers? So deep down within the data warehouses of the banks and the systems of the banks, there is a lot of information that the banks already have, which needs to be mined for this specific activity. And this is exactly what I mentioned in my presentation, that one will have to focus a lot on the data piece. The reason why I'm saying this is because the behavior of the customer in the scenario, which was a normal scenario, would actually be able to indicate to you what could be the impact in a pandemic situation. So, so this essentially is like a convergence of the data points which are customer driven and an overall impact of the pandemic on the economy as a whole. So it's about which the customer belongs to which industry and how much that industry could be impacted by the COVID-19 situation. So essentially, it's more or less like the risk assessment at the industry level, first of all. Well, in fact, it's essentially like the risk assessment at the economy level, and then the industry level, and then the individual customer level. So, and that is exactly what I'm saying, is that the IFRS 9 exercise that the State Bank wanted to do, and there was, as you know, there was a proportion of economic adjustments in that. So that economic adjustment has now occurred. Even before the release of IFRS 9 guidelines by State Bank of Pakistan, former release of IFRS 9 guidelines by the State Bank of Pakistan, and even before the formal adoption of IFRS 9 by the banking industry. So this is a true test of the data mining capacity of individual institutions.
Thank you, Faraz sir. Wasil sir. Wasil sir.
अस्सलाम जी। अच्छा, पहले तो Sayyid Irfan Ali and Faraz, thank you very much, and Delson, thank you for arranging such an informative sessions. And my question is a simple one from Mr. Sayyid Irfan Ali साहब जो State Bank के हैं कि हमें digital जाना है, pandemic हो या ना हो, that has been like हम बहुत अरसे से इस पे बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन जो इकोसिस्टम है वो हमें अलाउ नहीं कर रहा। तो स्टेट बैंक ने अभी बहुत अच्छे कुछ डिसीजंस लिए हैं जिसमें वेव ऑफ चार्जेस वगैरह, लेकिन वो एक मतलब अर्जेंट लिए गए डिसीजंस हैं। हमें फ्यूचर में इसको थोड़ा सा मिटिगेट देखना है कि हम किस तरह इन डिसीजंस को और बेनिफिशियल बनाएं। लेकिन इकोसिस्टम जो है, इसके लिए आप क्या फ्यूचर के लिए प्लान कर रहे हैं एज स्टेट बैंक कि हम फ्यूचर में इसको जो डिजिटल हमारी जो एक वेव है इसको हम एक बिग बनाएं और इसको हम आगे लेके चलें, क्योंकि इस चीज तो ये 2001-2002 से चलती हुई आ रही है, बट इट्स बीइंग लाइक 17 इयर्स। और हम अभी जो बात की तायरा मैडम ने कि डाटा हमें अवेलेबल कहाँ से हो सकता है, तो वो बिल्कुल उनकी बात ठीक है। तो इस पे स्टेट बैंक के क्या आगे प्लानिंग है और वो किस तरह इस चीज को भी देख रहे हैं कि हम किस तरह इकोसिस्टम को एक उस लेवल तक लेके जाएं कि हम गो डिजिटल की जो ड्राइव है हमारी वो एक बहुत अच्छी तरह उसको आगे जा सके, रादर देन कि हम उसी तरह 19-20 साल वैसे ही आगे बस इस पेंडेमिक गुजरने के बाद वैसे ही दोबारा इसको भूल जाए। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू वासिल साहब। इरफान साहब के लिए जितने भी क्वेश्चंस हैं वो क्वेश्चन आंसर्स में आप हमें लिख दें, हम आपको उसका रिप्लाई सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स को ईमेल के थ्रू कर देंगे।
ठीक है आमिर, मैंने लिख दिया। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
इरफान साहब हैज टू लीव, इनकी स्टेट बैंक में कोई और मीटिंग थी, तो फराज साहब के लिए कोई। थैंक यू जी। सलीम साहब।
हेलो
जी सलीम साहब को फराज साहब जी सलीम साहब को फराज साहब के लिए कोई क्वेश्चन है तो बताइए। सलीम साहब अपना इंट्रोडक्शन आइए। जी वालेकुम सलाम।
सलीम तोबानी बोल रहा हूँ मीजान बैंक से। कैसे आप खैरियत हैं?
जी
आवाज आ रही है?
फराज साहब के लिए कोई
जी, थैंक यू
सवाल
वेरी
है?
मच सलीम साहब, बिल्कुल जी, खैरियत
जी
से।
जी आ
जी
रही
फराज
है।
साहब के लिए सबसे पहले तो थैंक्स कि ये माशाल्लाह बड़ा जबरदस्त सेशन दलसन ने अरेंज किया। फराज साहब का, इरफान साहब का, इब्राहिम साहब आपका बड़ा शुक्रिया। मेरा सवाल बेसिकली है रिगार्डिंग सिंस इट्स अ पेंडेमिक, तो इसमें मेरा फराज साहब से ये सवाल है कि जिन इंडस्ट्री या जिन डिपार्टमेंट्स या लाइक जो बैंक्स के होते हैं जिनमें हमें फिजिकल डॉक्यूमेंटेशन के साथ डील करना है, या पोर्ट्स के जो काम होते हैं या कंटेनर से रिलेटेड जो इश्यूज होते हैं, उसमें हम किस हद तक ये जो डिजिटाइजेशन के जो कॉन्सेप्ट है उसको हम इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं ताकि हम इस पेंडेमिक में फिजिकल सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग को मेंटेन कर सकें। थैंक यू।
मेरा अपना एक ख्याल है कि इसका सवाल का जवाब जो रेगुलेटर ज्यादा बेहतर तरीके से दे सकता है, लेकिन मैं अपनी जो राय है वो आपके साथ शेयर कर सकता हूँ सलीम साहब। वो ये कि देखिए, पाकिस्तान में अभी डिजिटल सिग्नेचर एज पर द लॉ अलाउड तो
जी जी
है। देयर इज एन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक ट्रांजैक्शन ऑर्डिनेंस, एज यू नो ऑब्वियसली। सो उसमें डिजिटल
जी
सिग्नेचर्स अलाउड तो हैं, लेकिन सवाल ये पैदा होता है कि वेदर उन डिजिटल सिग्नेचर्स की परमिसिबिलिटी कोर्ट्स में है या नहीं है। सो जब हमने पिछले दिनों मुख्तलिफ क्या कहना चाहिए जो केसेस देखे या एक्सपीरियंसेस किए, मुझे कहीं नजर नहीं आया कि जो कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ है उसने कभी डिजिटल सिग्नेचर्स पर रिलाई किया हो। मैं ये भी नहीं कह रहा कि उन्होंने रिलाई नहीं किया, लेकिन वो हमेशा मांगते हैं हार्ड कॉपीज या डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, राइट?
बिल्कुल
तो
बिल्कुल
और ये जो मैटर है ये सिर्फ और सिर्फ आप जिस डॉक्यूमेंटेशन का तस्करा कर रहे हैं इस पर एप्लीकेबल नहीं है, बल्कि तमाम डॉक्यूमेंटेशन पे एप्लीकेबल है। So in fact, अगर मैं थोड़ा सा इस पे आगे जाऊं तो it is also applicable in the case of the agreement between a bank and a customer, a normal agreement between a bank and a customer, let alone the trade documentation that you're talking about, let alone the compliance documentation that you're talking about. So
यस
we probably have to seek the advice of the regulator as to even in the presence of the supporting law, why is that why is that it wasn't it didn't happen in the manner in which we expected that to happen, the digital signatures and digital contracting. तो इसको थोड़ा सा मेरे ख्याल में देखना पड़ेगा, रेगुलेटर के साथ बात करनी पड़ेगी, क्योंकि मेरे ख्याल में लॉ में कोई मसला नहीं है, लॉ के इंटरप्रिटेशन का थोड़ा इशू हो सकता है और एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी बाय कोर्ट्स का इशू हो सकता है।
फराज साहब, जस्ट टू ऐड वन थिंग, रिसेंटली एक्चुअली ट्रेड में रिलेटेड हमें जो इश्यूज नजर आए ना, जैसे रिसेंटली पूरा जब यूरोप लॉकडाउन हुआ तो यूरोप में कुछ बैंक्स की तरफ से हमारे पास इंस्ट्रक्शन आई कि आप हमें जो है ना कॉपी बीएल के ऊपर, यू अंडरस्टैंड कि जब ओरिजिनल
जी
बीएल होता है जिसके ऊपर आपको माल रिलीज करना होता है, तो उन्होंने कहा आप कॉपी बीएल या जो आपको ईमेल में बीएल भेज देते हैं उससे आप रिलीज कर दें। दैट इज द इशू विच वी आर फेसिंग करंटली कि आप इसको किस तरीके से, अगर इसको एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी हो और आईसीसी इसको अप्रूव कर दे और लीगली इसको एक कवर मिल जाए तो उस तरीके से ही कवर हो सकता है, अदरवाइज तो इसको हैंडल करना बड़ा मुश्किल होगा इन दिस पेंडेमिक इशू।
नहीं, मैं आपकी बात से बिल्कुल मुत्तफिक हूँ। एक दो और ग्रुप्स भी थे जहाँ पर मुझसे ये बात पूछी गई थी, मैंने उसको ये जवाब दिया था कि इस पूरी सूरत हाल के अंदर द रेगुलेटर में probably have to come up and set the stage because without their clearance or without their क्या कहना चाहिए उसको feedback, it's very difficult to put in place any activity, any action.
Thank you, Faraz sahab. Thank you, dear all participants. Thank you for attending our webinar. We are going to end our meeting. Thank you, Faraz sahab, and thank you, Sayyid Irfan Ali sahab. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, all the participants. Thanks a lot, Ibrahim. Thank you very much for inviting me over.
Much, sir.